Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Bankrolling the opener was big for the Bears. They do it in come-from-behind fashion, and now they move into Houston, looking to pull the upset of the defending AFC South champion, Houston Texans. They'll do so possibly a little banged up offensively. Welcome into Bears Weekly right here on ESPN 1000 on the Bears Radio Network with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Coming up, we visit with Bears tight end Cole Kmet. We'll also hear from the coordinators from today's podium at Hallis Hall and in the ESPN studio. Spin of the Dials tonight is Kendra Smith. Thanks to our producers Dan Brilli and Jordan Tredup from the Bears. And the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network is Eric Ostrowski. Joining us for the first couple of segments tonight, former Bears quarterback Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio. We'll get to him in just a moment. And that barking is one of Tom's dogs in the background. Yes, sirree. Which
There's
one?
Only one dog that barks like that, and that's Sweet Lou. If there's anybody on my perimeter, he is going to make me aware of it. And sorry for the interruption, but
it is what it is, man.
Yeah,
that's how we roll right now. Hey, Tom, Jim Miller now ready to join us as well from SiriusXM NFL Radio. We missed you, brother, since the preseason when you called the preseason games with Adam Amin. Got yourself on Hard Knocks. Jim, did that increase your public profile? You got on Hard Knocks, just like Big Tom and myself.
Yeah, I did hear it. You know, a lot of people texted me and stuff and said things that, hey, you made the cut last night. But, hey, I was down in Chicago. Week one at the game was fired up like anybody for the Bears to really pull out that victory the way they did. And, hey, here we go, week two, another big challenge already on store for the Bears.
Oh, yeah, glad you can join us, Big Jim. Let's talk injuries because Roma Dunze not practicing. It appears a knee injury that widely reported as an MCL of some sort. Keenan Allen dealing with a heel. So let's start there. Kari Blasingame did not practice. Ryan Bates did not practice today. He's dealing with shoulder, elbow issues. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Big Tom, what is the trickle down with some of this?
Guys that have been here all preseason, all training camp, all OTAs. You got Tyler Scott. You got Colin Johnson. You have the possibility of Valus going in there at the receiver position. When you look at the offensive line, they're super fortunate they brought in Matt Pryor because he is a big man. We saw a big man last week in Tavondre Sweat, but Matt Pryor is equally as big. So if they had any hiccups at the right guard position or any other offensive line position, I think that Matt Pryor could go in and steady the ship. And then when you look at Kari Blasingame in the fullback position, I think every tight end on the team has that versatility in them. Whether it's a guy built like Gerald Everett or a guy as big as Cole Kmet, Steven Carlson, or even Mercedes Lewis. So I don't think the offense will change one iota. However, when you have marquee players, you'd like to have them in a game this big, this magnitude, this nationally scoped.
Yeah, Jim, firepower and firepower. That's what you're hoping for. That Houston defense was on the field for only 20 minutes in their win in Indianapolis, and in those 20 minutes, somehow the Colts put 27 points on the board. What does that tell you about that defense? I don't know what you were able to watch and analyze with the Texans in that game defensively, but what did you see?
I did their training camp. I think that is a well-built team, what Nick Casero's done. Why? Because, much like the Bears, they got the rookie contract and they're starting to spend now. And then, of course, D'Amico Ryans, who's really got a good heartbeat of that locker room. I just watching him coach and how that team's going to come together. And how about, since going back to last year, C.J. Stroud has not thrown an interception in 230 passes.
Wow.
230 passes. I mean, he's playing mistake-free football that he's the anomaly of all quarterbacks that have come out. I mean, we saw the young quarterbacks struggle this weekend, that got their first start. But what they've done with him, the weapons around him with Tank Dell and Nico Collins, I think the Bears have an opportunity, but we'll see if the receivers, like I said, are healthy. Otherwise, they'll probably have to go more 12 personnel with two tight ends, and then you wonder if they can keep up with the scoring of Houston. I think the Bears defense will keep them at bay, but this is a very good offense the Bears will be seeing. good test.
You are a QB. Tell us what you saw. Tell us what you saw from Caleb Williams in the offense.
Yeah, I think he was a little amped up. I think the key thing is, and I'm sure everybody will say, because it's obvious, if you don't make the big mistake, you got a chance. If your quarterback doesn't make the big mistake, you got a chance. I thought he was a little late on some of his reads. I think we know he could have had a couple of touchdowns. Keenan Allen dropped that one in the front of the pylon. Thought he had a great one on that. He had an opportunity on that go route down the left sideline. So he was a little amped up and a little jacked up. But I think, again, it says a lot about the maturity of him. It didn't bother him after the game. His post-game is like, hey, it's my first start. Doesn't matter. The stats weren't great, but we won. And I think he's sincere saying it. These things don't seem to bother him, where because like for me, you miss 2 touchdown throws, I'd be losing sleep at night. It's probably bothering him internally, but he doesn't show it, man. He's cool as a cat, and I like that too.
The 2 things that I took away from this game is the fact that it's the first real action by Caleb. And after you spend 5 months in a red jersey where no one can get into your space, no one can interfere with your legs, your feet, your follow-through, or get anywhere near you, and then you're a sought-after product when you talk about playing in a real game against an opponent that has a defense like Tennessee or a Houston defense. But the thing to me is the defense picked up where they left off. And I think that's the key ingredient here. It's not that Caleb Williams has to come in here and be the savior of the Bears organization. He's got to play a brand of football that he improves week in and week out and then complements the defense. And one way of doing that is not turning the ball over. Yeah, you gave up a 19-yard sack, but you didn't throw the ball into harm's way where you put the defense, their backs to the goal line, or you gave them multiple opportunities. And so I think, like Jim said in Caleb's post-game comments, I think he's going to ascend through the season here, and he's never going to be a guy that's going to shy away from the big opportunity he's earned in life.
Yeah, overcoming adversity is part of the whole puzzle, and I think he's had great experience at that. This venue will not be too crazy for him either. He's been on the biggest platforms in college football at Oklahoma and USC. He's been rising to the occasion, and hopefully they can take the starch out of that crowd with a run game and getting some first downs, just 2 third-down conversions. Some of those 7, I believe, were 3rd and 5 or less. So those you gotta get at least 5 of those, right? 5 of those, that gets you another 15 plays at a minimum, extend some drives and put you in position to get some more points. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. Pass protection's got to hold up against those edge guys. Danielle Hunter, obviously a wrecker outside, coming over from the Vikings. He's always been a problem for the Bears over the years because he is good. He's one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL that often doesn't get talked about when you're talking about the Myles Garretts and you're talking about the T.J. Watts and all that. But he's right up there in sacks, Tommy.
Well, one thing about crowd quieters, sacks, defensive turnovers, and special teams touchdowns. And the Bears were able to do all of that in this past week's game. So if you can bring that into Houston and you can allow your offense to continue to develop over time and then Caleb not make the big mistake, they're going to give themselves a better opportunity because the Bears have multiple sackers. They have defensive lineups that they can put sacks in numbers. Then they got turnover opportunities, and then they got special teams, either big kickoff returns or punt blocks for touchdowns.
Jim, Joe Mixon, only 6 backs, 30 carries or more last year in the NFL. He had 30. The young man in San Francisco getting the start on Monday night, he had 28 carries. Slowick, the offensive coordinator to Houston, is he more tied to the tree of Shanahan or McVay in terms of this? Because I was listening to the 49ers broadcast on radio, and they kept talking about, okay, the magic number of carries is 30 carries. So is this where we're headed in this particular scheme now?
Well, first, to me, it's always going to be Kyle Shanahan. Slowick comes from San Francisco, and that's really, and even, Sean McVay, he was with Kyle Shanahan in Washington. He was really under him. So it's really this tree is the Shanahan. tree. And McVay's been awesome at it, but I would think Slowick, he's going to be more in line with Kyle Shanahan coming from San Francisco. I mean, look at that game the other day by San Francisco. I mean, they just ran outside zone run after outside zone run and just put it on the New York Jets. And that's really going to be the style of Houston, because that's who they want to be from Bobby Slowick. They've got a young, talented passer, but 40 minutes time of possession and Joe Mixon was a wrecking ball. I still can't believe Cincinnati gave away Joe Mixon. Didn't Cincinnati just get embarrassed week one? They could have used Joe Mixon.
For a seventh-round pick, they dealt him for. Yeah, seventh-round pick. Okay, there's still value in backs. That's what you're telling us, Jim. No question about it. All right, we're going to take our first break. Jim will be back here for this segment. We'll talk about Shane Waldron, hear what he had to say as well as the Bears get ready for the Texans here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. Jeff and Tom and Jim Miller alongside. Before we delve in, let's listen in to what Shane Waldron, the Bears offensive coordinator, had to say about Week 1, Caleb Williams, and a look ahead.
Yeah, I think for him, just going out there, playing with clean eyes, clean feet, first chance to get out into a road environment, which I'm sure he'll be rocking on Sunday night, to be able to get to operate that way. Great communication with his guys up front and, the receivers, the running backs, tight ends, everyone supporting him and knowing that as an offense, we want to keep improving every single week. And what's that look like? Again, our results will speak for themselves as we go out there, work at it, clean it up. I think the thing that gives us so much confidence as coaches, as players, is you come in here on Monday. You had, first of all, a great week last week by our defense, by our special teams unit. I heard Tyreek talking about it, too, just a minute ago about what a great brotherhood these guys have formed. Everyone has each other's back, and you felt that from our lens on offense right there, whether it was at halftime, whether it was during the course of the game. So then when we're moving forward this week, knowing each week, different units have to support each other, knowing that we have to do a better job of supporting our defense and our special teams moving forward. And that'll happen by just those incremental improvements here, staying together, playing together. So when we came out to practice yesterday as an offense, the tempo that we operated at, the enthusiasm, the effort, the hustle, the hustle on the backside, the blocks, all the things that on a Wednesday, if you have the right people, it looks like what it did yesterday.
How important is it to develop or establish a running game? How much of doing that would help Caleb?
I think for us, we always want to have that balance of the run and the pass. I think, this past week, obviously, want to do a little bit better job of getting some more runs off and helping that and, eliminating the negative plays. I know, when you have sudden change situations or some things that occurred or, Dre has a really big kick return, we want to be able to get the runs going in those scenarios. And I think for us, that's just part of, the offense as a whole of what we want to be as a balanced system and starting with running the ball. And I think, Chris Morgan and the offensive line have done a good job, talking about a group that started out yesterday, bringing the right attitude, bringing the right effort. Those guys set the tone for practice like they will every day. And, excited to see what those guys go out and do this next week.
Shane, Caleb's accuracy has been one of his calling cards, and he admitted he missed a lot of throws on Sunday that he normally wouldn't. From your lens, what was behind the accuracy issues for Caleb?
Yeah, I think for Caleb, it's just about reps and the more time he's out there, like anything, anyone that's playing any of the positions, anyone that's coaching, the more reps that we're able to accumulate, the slower it becomes each week in and out. And I know Caleb had mentioned it, though, but the tempo of his feet, I think just playing with that good, clean tempo, and mentioned clean eyes, clean feet, and sticking to that. And then that'll obviously lead to an improved accuracy on a couple throws here and there. But like we said, we've seen him make all these throws throughout the course of practice, throughout the course of his college career, and have all the confidence in the world that each week that'll get incrementally better, and we'll be excited what we see.
All right, Jim, you're the QB, so I have to defer to you right out of the gate when you talk about clean eyes, clean feet. Explain what that all means. Big Jim?
I've got you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So normally when you're throwing, your feet should marry up with the routes that you're throwing. Like we always talk about the timing and rhythm. So 5-step drop, hitch, throw. Whether that's throwing an out route, but your feet will really get you to the right spot in order to throw. Because if you're processing everything you need, and he'll be faster at processing, he'll get better and better at that. These are some new looks that maybe he's never seen before, but his feet will start to marry up. And sometimes, like I said, if you're, say, throwing an out route, say you're normally if they were in a cover 2, you're going to adjust and get your footwork to where you're going to throw a hole shot on the outside. Now, say if it's single high safety at the snap of ball, say, he's under there and says set hut, he's looking at cover 2, now they rotate to a cover 3. Now you've got to get your feet to where what the drop would be on a 5-step drop for an out route to be thrown at 12 yards and keeping it outside. So everything will start to marry up where the timing and rhythm will get better, and it will become seamless, and it'll become rote memory. He's too talented of a player not to do it, and he'll get there. It'll just take a little time.
You know what? One thing I like about this week, and what Shane kind of alluded to, that the run game is the responsibility of the offensive line. They got to do this whole offense, this whole football team, a service by having an effective running game. But I also think after this week, there is not going to be any shock to the system in terms of the atmosphere and the crowd noise and what you're going to face throughout the rest of your career. And I really like the fact that you get these out of the way early, a home game, all of that excitement, the adrenaline is flying like it never will again. And then you go to this environment that they're going to face this week in Houston, a whiteout, Sunday night, national TV. The crowd is going to be absolutely insane. But I know you've been in big games like this before on the college level, but you haven't played against guys like this before in a loud stadium, because these guys that you're going to face throughout the entirety of your NFL career are completely different athletes than what you faced in a loud atmosphere in college. So I think these first 2 games are going to do more for the development of Caleb than a lot of other portions of improvement will do for him.
Jim, I'm also, about flow and rhythm. I know every quarterback wants that. Every quarterback enjoys working in rhythm. So, when personnel packages are thrown into the mix, and I believe they had 26 different groupings of personnel in that game, how do you get that with that kind of change down to down? How do you get into that rhythm as a passer?
Well, the reads are still going to be the reads. You're going to go through your progressions, and you're going through this checklist once you hear that play. So imagine me just sitting there looking at the sideline or in the huddle, waiting for that call to come in my helmet. And as soon as I hear those words, I'm coming up with my checklist. All right, I got to be careful here. We might have to audible to this play. This looks no good. So, all right, this coverage, we're going to, make an adjustment here. So, and I'm going through this checklist. All right, and by the time we say ready, break, and we're walking up to line of scrimmage, all right, now what am I looking at? All right, like I said, all right, strong safety's down. Be ready for the strong safety blitz. That's what my checklist there. If it looks like it's coming, hey, I may check a weak side run. So I'm seeing, pressure on the right side, and then I'm going through the checklist, make the audible, run the play. Because that's my job, to get the offense in the best play to take advantage of the defense. And I think, again, he'll get better and better and better. He'll see it. He'll understand it. And now, how do I attack it? And that's going to get better and better every single week.
Tom, D'Amico Ryan's talking a lot about stopping the run. He's got some really good players on that defense, obviously, at the ends. But they've got a bunch of new bodies as well, some really named players in the secondary. Jalen Petrie is their nickel, but he's a safety. He's a guy that'll come up. He's not afraid of contact. So he's already thinking like the Bears, could be taking that path to success.
Well, if you're talking about a third-level player being the leading tackler in the game, the Bears' running game is doing well. To me, when I look at guys like Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, I am not going to let them do what they want to do, and that's rush the passer. I'm going to make them absorb a physical style of game. And like we saw, the first play of the game, they went unbalanced left, and now you put a big guy like Darnell Wright on the far outside next to Braxton Jones. And if you want to have multiple times where you run an unbalanced line, it's okay. You can do that, especially with the success you've been having. But never am I going to let the guys do what they want to do in order to showcase their talent. And I think if you can run the ball effectively to that edge, to maybe those interior holes or that outside zone that they talk about, you can keep the offense on the field, and you can put Caleb in a favorable 2nd and 4, a 3rd and 3 situation where it's not, 3 seconds of protection, that the protection, if it lasts 2.5 seconds, it's enough to get the ball out of your hand.
Azeez Al-Shaair, their middle linebacker, their green dot player, number 1 in tackles in 23 with the Titans. Also did lead the league in missed tackles as well. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Big Jim, any final thoughts before we cut you loose? And we appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on here throughout the regular season for a couple segments. If you're so kind to do so, we love having you.
Well, hey, good to be here with you guys. Hey, I'm fired up. I think this is a good test for the Chicago Bears. We know defense can travel. The Bears were one of the better rushing defenses last year, and that's going to be tested because I think with what Joe Mixon with the 30 carries and what he went over, they still want to protect a young quarterback too. So the Bears' run game has to travel, and the Bears' rushing defense has to travel well, and if they do that, they'll have a shot.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. By the way, Mixon, 2 games, 100-plus in his last 36 games with the Bengals and had the big opener down in Houston. When we come back, Tom and I visit with Cole Kmet, the Bears starting tight end. It's all next on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
And this segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Welcome back to Bears Weekly here on ESPN 1000 on the Chicago Bears Radio Network. Jeff and Tom and our good pal, tight end Cole Kmet joining the program. Tom, we had a fight elbow for this because, he's his own media star now. Tell us, you're podcasting.
Yeah, I'm podcasting. It's been fun. I started doing some stuff last year with those guys over at CHGO, and then decided to do my own thing with their help, and it's been cool to kind of get some of the players in and get their perspective on things. I think fans, if you tune in, are able to learn a little bit more of the intricacies to each position that each guy plays and really highlight all those guys. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
It's called the 85, correct?
It's called the 85.
Tom,
yes.
People could get confused now. I mean, that's Super Bowl winners.
No, everybody knows what 85 means right now. It's Cole's number, and it's Cole's number for the next decade, and that's how people can talk to him. Hey, Cole, so you think back to the start of the season. They bring in a new offensive coordinator. They start installing a new offense. You guys get announced that you're going to be on Hard Knocks. You begin all the processes of the preseason. When you got to last week, did it seem faster, or did it seem like things slowed down because of it? Now it's the regular season.
Well, I think the regular season is always an uptick from the preseason. So, I know those preseason reps in the moment, seem like a lot maybe to a lot of the fans, and you really try and digest and really taking everything that happens on those days in the preseason. But regular season is a whole different animal. You got defensive coordinators are now game planning specifically against your offense, and you're seeing maybe some different looks that you hadn't seen before. And obviously this past week against Tennessee, you're playing against a new defensive coordinator for them. So there's a lot of looks that you're not really seeing, that you haven't seen from them. So there's things that you got to look back when, that DC, he was in Baltimore. So you're looking at some Baltimore film, and obviously they got different personnel in Tennessee. So there's a lot of things going on in that regard. For me personally, going into year 5, things have continued to slow down year after year for me, and I've always been feeling pretty good out there, especially recently. So I'm sure for some guys, I know the rookies maybe it probably ticked up in speed a little bit, and that's just how the NFL is going to be, and it'll adjust as the season goes.
So your inclusion into this offense, is it how you fit against your next opponent, or what changes this offense can make for you to fit better against your next opponent? Yeah,
we'll see where it goes. I'm not going to be a guy that is going to go ahead and complain for targets or for my involvement. I'm going to trust whatever coaches roll out there, and we'll kind of see where it goes. Obviously, I've said what I said about everything, and I feel like I'm a top tight end in this league, and I'm a guy that can do it all, and I really feel like this year I'm in a position to take a big step with where I'm at physically and mentally. So we'll see where it goes. Obviously we got a lot of pieces that we got to figure out, just a lot of new guys, a lot of talent that we got to take care of, and obviously a rookie quarterback as well that we also got to bring along. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still very optimistic about what we can be offensively this year, but it just might take a little bit of time.
Shane Waldron said as much about you. Knows you're one of the top playmakers, and you've done everything right since you got here. You said it today at the podium here at Hallis Hall. But this whole one ball, many weapons thing, fans were curious before the season. You add more talent, but this league is about matchups, right? And so when you get a great matchup, you might get 10 targets this week and play, 60 snaps.
Yeah, and everyone will forget about it. So we'll see where it goes. This is a matchup league, and we got a lot of good matchups across the board. Whether you're looking obviously at like DJ, Keenan, Rome has looked really good throughout training camp. Myself, Gerald, and then in the running back room as well. So a lot of good weapons that we can choose from. Just about putting it together and making this thing gel.
Is the offensive coordinator's door open? Do you talk to him?
Absolutely.
After a game like this?
Yeah. No, we have a great dialogue. All the players have a great dialogue with Shane. Shane's really receptive on things. He's a really smart guy. He's been really good with the X's and O's, and that's been evident for him throughout his whole career so far. And you've seen the stuff that he's done in Seattle and other places he's been at. So he has a lot of knowledge. And but look, this is a thing that we got to gel together,
yes.
and that's something that takes time. And but all this is all part of being a team and being new.
One of the best tight end rooms in the league.
Yeah,
talking about variety and age,
yeah.
and you know what?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gerald's been around. He's been doing a good job. And then Mercedes, at almost 40 years old, I think is still the best blocking tight end in the NFL. And obviously I put myself up there as being a very good blocking tight end. So, when we got me and him together, we can do some damage up front. And then, obviously, all the things we're able to do in the pass game. So it's a very talented room.
Well, one more fun topic for me is throughout my Notre Dame career, I was 0-4 against USC. And I don't know what your record was, but I saw George Kittle this morning wearing an Iowa State helmet because of his bet with Brock Purdy, home of Jeff Joniak.
Cyclones, baby.
I know it's not until the end of the year, so I'm going to give you time to think about some fun bet that you can have with premier quarterback number one.
Oh, I already got this in mind, man. Well, first, I never lost to USC, which is the biggest thing that I hang my hat on leaving Notre Dame. So, that to me was because I can't stand USC. But I'm going to propose that he dresses like a leprechaun if we beat him. How about that? That's pretty good. I mean,
and if it goes the other way, then you got to dress as like one of their Trojan warriors.
He can pick whatever he wants, but he's dressing up as a leprechaun if we win that game. That's for sure. And I'll buy the costume too.
Cole, you're more familiar with the college noise than I am because I'm so old. And I think about you guys going into Houston. Is there similarities between the stadiums that you played in and how packed it was, because usually even away stadiums were packed against Notre Dame? Is there similarities to it, or is there an extreme noise difference between your college experience and your NFL experiences?
Yeah, we were actually talking about this on the field the other day. I don't think I've ever been in an NFL stadium yet, honestly, that has been as loud as some of the college stadiums I've played at. And that includes Georgia, Notre Dame at times. I played at Michigan in front of 100,000+. So those stadiums get really, really loud in those college football atmospheres. Now, that being said, there's a lot more communication involved at the NFL level than there is at the college level. Everyone's looking at the sideline in college to get their play. There's no huddle calls. The checks are usually verbal in the NFL, and there's having to signal at the line of scrimmage and having to communicate across the line of scrimmage and run checks. And, if there's a down safety here, if the safety flies back there, that might change the point in a protection or in a run scheme. So there's a lot more intricacies in the NFL game and a lot more communication that has to happen. So any type of noise is going to affect you. That being said, the loudest moment in a football game I've ever been a part of was when I think it was last year, when the Lions had beat us and they came back and Hutchinson had that strip sack. And that was the loudest I'd ever heard a stadium in my life. So, I'm sure it'll be noisy. I'm sure it'll be riled up there in Houston. It's the first time they've had a Sunday night football game, I think, in a long, long time.
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So they're going to be juiced up, ready to go. There's going to be a lot of noise. We're going to have to communicate really well. But this is nothing that most of us haven't played in before, and we just got to be able to handle it.
Flus is thinking it's a college environment, indoor on top of it.
Absolutely.
So Cole Kmet, our guest here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. So I can't remember now through the 5 episodes. Tom, you watched all 5, so I don't know how many appearances you had on camera on Hard Knocks, but I see they're dropping some stuff that they picked up the cutting room floor, and they're repurposing.
Yes.
So the football car to Mercedes Lewis was one I saw online this week, which is pretty cool. Were you cool with your appearances or lack thereof on Hard Knocks? Were you looking for a little more Cole Kmet time?
I think it was like the perfect amount where I showed up here and there just to because I want to be able to show this to my kids one day.
Right.
So like they'll know, okay, like I was actually involved and on the team and like I was in there, but I never had like a big feature, which I was totally okay with.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Our calls were on there. Tom was on there, so that's something for perpetuity. This general manager keep adding local products. So the latest is Karan Amagaji. You know, that flavor, and we keep bringing it up. Is it important in a weird way?
Yeah,
here?
no, I think it matters here more maybe than in other places because you got to understand the environment that you're getting into here. My example was just this past Sunday. I think some people were a little shocked that the Boo Birds came out at halftime. This is Chicago, man. They're expecting a winner, and they have big expectations for their football team. So having guys that know the area well, I think it brings a level of comfort and understanding as to what this football team means to the city. And just that level of understanding, you come into the practice facility knowing what you got to do every day, for sure.
So from Hard Knocks, you threw out the first pitch at the Cubs game. So when you went to the mound, is it what you remembered? Did you think, okay, I gotta deliver this so I don't look like some of the other highlighted players that couldn't make it to the mound? What was your pre-pitch thinking there?
I was getting nervous before, honestly. I have no idea why. I started warming up with my brother beforehand, and they had told me the mascot was going to be catching the first pitch, and so I was like, can I like throw this thing in there? Because whenever you have to, for me in baseball, when you got to lob something in or like put touch on it, it never goes where you want it to go. You just got to fire it through the chest. And so they were like, yeah, you can fire this thing at him. So I'm like, all right. So I just got up there and ripped it, and it might have been a ball outside. George was giving me some crap for it the other day, saying that it wasn't a strike. But it got over the plate. It looked professional.
Did you get the MPH on it?
Yes.
What'd you fire?
I think they said it was in the 70s, so not bad. Not bad.
What'd you top out at?
My top out in college, I think, was 96. Yeah, and I sat at 90-93. So yeah,
wow.
I had a good arm from the left side, but that was like a dream come true for me and a lot of fun.
How's the wedding planning going?
Oh my gosh, I get home every day, and my fiance, we always got stuff to talk about. But credit to her, she's been killing it. She's been taking care of a lot of different things. We just did a wedding tasting deal the other night, and we just had a blast with that. So the process is fun with it. We're having fun with it, but yeah, definitely a lot of work. A lot of that has to be done, but we're enjoying the process for sure.
All right, back to football. So
don't invite. He doesn't like wedding talk. He does not go to weddings. He doesn't go to weddings.
A question I'm curious of, because during Hard Knocks we saw Caleb have a little bit of an interruption with the communication device in his helmet.
Yeah,
and he was able to piece the words together and know exactly what he was supposed to say in the huddle. How was the communication Sunday, being the first time 4 quarters in a regular season game, some alternate down and distances that you were facing? How did that process of the game go?
Well, I thought in terms of the huddle, it was great, and it was good. I mean, there were some mishaps here and there, which is expected, and that happens in every NFL game. But, for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. And I think kind of what I mentioned with the noise in Houston and, having to communicate the line of scrimmage, I think that's where we can all get better, not just at the quarterback position, but between receivers, tight ends, offensive line, and running backs. And we can communicate better with the post-huddle deal, and I think that'll help us out tremendously.
Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, got to block those guys.
Yeah, we got to take care of them. Yeah, they look really good. Obviously, 2 talented guys, and those are guys you got to look out for. And if you can neutralize them, I think we'll have some good success on offense.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Good luck on the podcast. Good luck on Sunday and the rest of the season. Cole Kmet, our guest. We'll continue with Bears Weekly after this on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak. On the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by CDW. People to get it, Jeff and Tom. Love talking to Cole Kmet, Tommy. If he gets 35 catches this year, he'd crack the top 5 all-time in franchise history for Bears pass catchers in his first 5 seasons. And third in touchdowns by a tight end in the NFL since 2022, behind only Kelsey and Kittle. So
if he doesn't have 35 catches, we have to have an investigation.
Right.
Because Cole Kmet, as he mentioned, he is capable of doing it all. He's a very good inline blocker. He could play H-back. He could play fullback. He's a downfield threat. He's a red zone threat. And he's a consistent 5-yard plus tight end. So Cole is just in the midst of the beginning of a great career.
All right, let's switch it over to the defensive coordinator, Eric Washington. He went to the podium and dove right in on the Houston Texans.
A good challenge for us this week. The first is to the defense, making sure that we play to our standard for 4 quarters in every aspect of what we do with all of our values, our culture, and then just stopping the run and just doing everything that we can going into this week to elevate our level of play, our discipline, ball production, hits on the quarterback, just being efficient on first and second down. We want to make sure that we take a pretty decent jump this week. And the second is the opponent. This offense, what can you say? The quarterback is dynamic. The offensive line has done a nice job of creating lanes for their runners. Joe Mixon, they've got a receiving core that can really produce explosive plays. And we'll have our hands full in terms of keeping this offense in front of us and doing everything that we can to address the way that they try and attack you, especially with the explosive plays. Joe Mixon has done a really nice job of protecting the football. And for a defense that has aspirations of taking the football away, that's going to be a tremendous challenge for us, and we're going to need a special effort to get that done. So good challenge for us, good opportunity for us to grow and to continue to make progress against a really, really good offense and a dynamic young quarterback.
Here, Coach Washington talks about wide receiver Nico Collins.
Very talented. I mean, the size, not only the speed, the catch radius. I mean, the quarterback does not have to be perfect and 100% accurate for him to make a play on the football. And what gets lost in the whole thing is his ability to block on the perimeter. I mean, very physical blocker. All of the receivers are. And so we're going to have to do a really good job of being physical, disconnecting from blocks, especially against perimeter runs. But he's the full total package.
Eric, with the way they established the run last week and then wedded themselves to it, what did you see on video about how Mixon had the day that he had?
Yeah, it's number one, their run inventory creates some issues for you. I mean, they can go from a gap scheme concept with pullers to an outside zone looking to cut the football back. And so they've got a nice blend, a nice mix of run concepts that you have to do a really good job of addressing and fitting, especially when they start to pull an offensive lineman.
Diggs seemed to establish himself pretty early on those underneath throws for CJ. Is that when you try to scheme up like responsibilities of how you're going to attack their 3 receivers, is that something that you expect to stay consistent on a week-to-week basis to prepare for that, or how they might use him differently?
Yeah, we have to be prepared for all contingencies as far as the route concepts that we'll see. And I'm sure that they'll move Stephon around so that we can identify and pinpoint one location for him and design our plan around that. But wherever he ends up in terms of the route concept, we have to make sure we execute the coverage.
Yeah, Diggs with 2 touchdowns in the red zone. Tommy, interesting on the variety of runs. So, yes, inside gap and outside zone, 2 very different styles, and you got to prepare for both. But with what Andrew Billings did, and we're so intrigued by what he did in this game, had a lot of reps, put hits on the quarterback, stuffed the run, put pressure on the quarterback. He becomes a very key figure.
He's a super key figure because his versatility brings the type of what I'm going to call him EW, okay? That's Eric Washington. Flus gives everybody nicknames. I'm going to now go with EW for Eric Washington because when he talks about the variety of runs that opponents have, the Bears have a variety of defensive fronts they can put out there because of their versatility of their front 7. And as you say about their defensive backs, they have great deployment and they can put them in a lot of different positions. So Big Billings can do a lot. But Zach Pickens is also elevated to a full practice today. So, what type of reps, what type of versatility does that give the defensive front? I don't want to ignore Billings because I got to tell you what, he impressed me more in this first game of the regular season than he did throughout training camp. And his production and the way that he assisted the linebacker position and the way he assisted the defensive line and the way he put pressure on the quarterback was more impressive to me than I thought I saw. But going back and looking at it, listen, man, Billings is a big man that's hard to move, and I think he can be a stabilizing force in the center of that defense.
You know what scouts say with guys like that? They grow roots, meaning they're hard to dig out of there for an offensive lineman. Guys like Andrew Billings.
One thing about that, Jeff, and that's a great point by you, because when you have a defensive lineman that's considered has great roots, that means the combination blocks of offensive linemen have to spend more time of getting that guy moved than they can getting to the second level. And then that gives a little bit of, 3/4 of a second, half a second more freedom for the linebacker to get in position to make a play.
One segment to go. We'll get Tom's thoughts and Richard Hightower, his views on the special teams excellence that was a part of that big victory at home against Tennessee. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
Calling all Bears fans. Want unforgettable access to see the Bears play at Soldier Field this season? Well, VIP official ticket packages are now available for every home game. Unlock access to exclusive ticket packages that may include entry to in-stadium hospitality lounges. Also, pregame sideline credentials and the Chicago City Pass. Visit ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 for more information. Again, that's ChicagoBearsVIP.com. or call 866-202-5755. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity with Chicago Bears VIP. Our remaining moments here on Bears Weekly. We'll start with Tom's thoughts. Tom, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to tell you an actual story from my career that I think it's relatable to this week. So we were in our season with Mike Ditka as the head coach, and the offensive line, he wanted them to play better. And in front of everybody, he stood there and he said, if I criticize the wide receivers, they'll go into a shell. If I criticize the defensive backs, they're too sensitive. So the only faction of a team, segment of a team that I can criticize in front of everybody is the offensive line. If you win the game, you get no credit. If you lose the game, you get all the blame. So when I think about this week going into Houston, I want the offensive line to play a more physical Chicago brand of football. I want them to play a brand of football that Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, continues to preach and coach. So these guys have to up their standard of physical approach to football in the most difficult circumstances they can possibly face. And that is not hearing the snap count, being in a super hostile environment, and being the most important segment of the Chicago Bears football team in order for this team to come away with a win. So for my actual experiences, I want to relate it to these guys, and I want them to play a better, more physical brand of football.
I like it. Physicality on special teams is something that Matt Eberflus brought up earlier in the week. Richard Hightower also applauding the work of Daniel Hardy, who blocked that punt in the win.
It's a testament to not only him as a person, and I actually met his mom this week as well for the first time. It's a testament to his family, how he was raised, how he goes about his business. And it's a testament to our personnel department finding a guy like that, because a lot of people didn't know who Daniel Hardy was, and for him to work and develop and make the plays that he made, I'm very proud of him as well as his teammates. His teammates are proud of him as well, and I'm proud of Daniel and his teammates. And then we're just looking for more growth. One quick thing on that, because I could talk all day about Hardy. okay? But what's interesting that people don't know is after the game he had and after he was, recognized by coach as one of the players, of the game that contributed and all that, the kid after that, he came right up to my office and wanted to know what he could get better at.
Oh, that's what I love hearing, Big Tommy. We've got 30 seconds. We both like this young man.
Love him since training camp and his production, and I hope he has more success than he or his mom originally thought he could have.
Yeah, his mom was at the game, post-game, when I was interviewing him on Marquee. She was standing right there taking pictures. I saw him in the locker room. She said it was one of her biggest thrills, like watching all this come to fruition. As a former basketball player, didn't play a lot of high school football and had to find a way to get to the college level and has earned himself a spot, and he is relentless on special teams.
You should have interviewed her.
Yes, exactly.
You should have interviewed her.
All right,
the most important person in her life.
We got to go big time. We'll see you Sunday night in Houston. This has been Bears Weekly on the new radio home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago. Coming up next, Chris Bleck. Good night, everybody.